So, we are here in the PokerStars Caribbean Adventure with American poker pro Vanessa Selbst. You will be playing the tournament tomorrow, right?
Yeah, I'll be starting day 1B tomorrow.
You have a lot of routine playing these big and long tournaments. Do you do any special preparations before you're entering a tournament like this?
No, I mean, I'm pretty accustomed to playing these. Probably play about 1 or 2 every month at least. So, you know, I think when I'm in a tournament, I just try to make the best decisions. And, you know, when I get to day 2 and day 3, it's just really important for me to get a lot of sleep and eat healthy and, you know, work out when I can. I think really being in a healthy mindset helps you because the hours can be really long. And the day 4s and day 5s, you know, you have to make a lot of good decisions, and that's when it really counts. And that's the time when I think a lot of other players get fatigued. So, you know, just being sure to be healthy, and also, you know, the experience also helps in terms of getting through those long hours.
You have been a member of the Team PokerStars for such a time now. Does it affect your career in any way, except that you're getting money from it?
Yeah, I mean, definitely being with PokerStars has made it so that, you know, I think more people recognize me nowadays, you know, through the media that I'm getting, and, you know, just people will see on the site and, you know, see a red spade next to your name or something. So, you know, people definitely play differently, knowing, you know, who I am, and they know my reputation and everything. So, you know, I think it's actually been easier for me because before I joined Team PokerStars, some people knew who I was, but some people didn't, and so I didn't know whether I could expect that someone knew who I was and knew my style. And so, you know, like, I'm going to play much differently against someone if they know how I play versus if they don't. And now I I think, can go in at least with the assumption that most people know something about me, just because most of them do. So that's been, you know, really helpful for me for, you know, when I'm going in against an unknown, at least we're on the same kind of level playing field in terms of knowledge about each other's games and stuff.
We have seen you play in a lot of those tournaments. Do you have any favorite venues going to, and why and so?
Well, this is one of my favorite venues at the PCA. Not so much for the poker, but just like the, you know, outside, you know, going on the water slides and the beautiful, you know, the beaches, and I don't know, it's just such a beautiful place to be in. But the problem is that in the past, I think subconsciously it was like a little bit too much fun, and so I have in the back of my mind, oh, if I don't play this tournament, I can, you know, go on the water slide. So like in 2007, I played and I busted on level 3, and so in 3 hours. And then last year I came and I was like, okay, I just have to beat my, you know, level 3. I got to get through day 1, and I think I busted after an hour and a half or something. So this is one of my favorite venues, but hopefully I'll do better. But other than that, you know, I don't know. I really like playing in the States, honestly. I think for me, you know, it's tough because the EPT is so great and it's so fun, and it's growing and the numbers are getting better. But I think there's something about playing with people like from where you grew up or something. For me, the East Coast, like Mohegan Sun, I've done well there. Foxwood, same thing. And I think, you know, I went to university around there, and I've spent a lot of time in the Northeast, and I think I sort of understand people's games better. I'm able to talk to them and get more information out of them, and I think it's just in general a lot easier to play against people that you're more comfortable or more used to being around. So I would say those are probably my favorite places to play poker.
You grew up in New York and you have studied at Yale. Can you see a different style of play in the East Coast compared to when you go to California or Las Vegas?
Well, coast versus coast, I don't know. I mean, definitely I think the East Coast players, 3 years ago I would have said yes for sure. The East Coast players were more passive, and I would say the West Coast players were more aggressive. But I don't know that, you know, I think that there's not as much of a difference anymore. I think a lot of the better players are playing kind of all over the place, and, you know, so I'm usually playing tournaments with the players that are traveling anyway. If we're playing a 10K tournament, it's mostly people that are playing all over the country. So I don't really see as big a difference. But between European players and America, definitely. I mean, the European style, I think a lot of them learned such an aggressive style. There's just so much 3-betting and 4-betting and things like that are going on. And as people get more sophisticated in Europe, you know, it used to be where they were still 3-betting only for value with like ace-king and ace-queen maybe, and like jacks through aces, and then they would 3-bet bluffing all the time. So it was like really easy to play against because like usually if they 3-bet, they just didn't have a good hand. And now I think as players get more sophisticated, they're still much more aggressive, but they're learning to sort of balance with their 3-bets and unpolarize their ranges. So they're going to show up with like king-queen and spots, and then you 4-bet them, and they're not folding it because they realize it's a spot where like king-queen is a very strong hand. So it makes it tougher to play against when they're playing aggressively, but with a wider amount of their range. So yeah, I would say that's probably the main difference between Europe and the American players.
You're one of the most successful tournament players in the last years. Given that you would get yourself in heads up in a tournament like this, which player do you least want to meet in a heads up game, given you have even stacks and you are pretty deep?
I'm so bad at these questions about who would you least like to play, just because it's hard to come up with the top of my head. I mean, really any of the really great players that are, consistently winning tournaments, like Elke or Jason. These are players that are just like have tons of experience going deep and playing heads up, and usually win. So obviously, if anybody's doesn't get very many second places, you don't want to be the person that they have to get through to get the title. So I would say those two would be good examples of people I probably wouldn't want to play.
But you still have to beat anyone you meet, so it doesn't matter actually.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not too worried though. I mean, I'll take them on anyway. So.
Do you have any special role models when it comes to poker that you have been looking up to or learning more from?
I don't think so. I've learned from a lot of my friends. Like, we all talk poker, and some of my friends are really just among the best in the world. I mean, I have so many friends that are really, really fantastic players. So I don't know that there's anyone in particular. I sort of was, I think, one of the first wave of like the newer generation of poker players, the online players. I started playing, God, it's been like 7 or 8 years ago almost at this point. I was around before any of the training sites were around. We were the second Deuces Cracked when we started it. The second training site that even existed. So I don't know that there weren't that many really good players to look up to when I was learning. My peers were really good and we were getting good together, but there was no one that was already so established that I could go to them and say, okay, like, teach me what you know, or really in that way. So I don't think that I have someone that really fills that role for me.
You are quite young still. How long can you see yourself in the poker industry?
It's an interesting question. I actually, I've sort of been in and out of the poker industry. Took a couple years off for law school. I came back, went back to law school. Actually, just finished law school like 3 days ago. So I'm very excited to be able to.
Congratulations.
Thanks a lot. I'm really happy about it. So I'm really excited to be able to commit more time because, like, in the past couple months, for instance, I've only played 2 tournaments and only the main events, because anytime I would finish the main event, I had to get back to my studies. So for now, I think I can see myself getting at least 3 or 4 or 5 good years out of it. It's tough. It's tough to really foresee. I mean, maybe I'll want to play for 20 years, but the industry won't make it that long. Maybe the industry will make it a really long time, and I won't. So there's so many unknowns about poker, and I think as we can see, it's really hard to plan what you want to do with your life if you don't even know if the industry is going to be around, right? Like, I could plan a life for myself and sort of make an idea of how my life will go. Maybe I'll spend some of my time doing this and some of my time doing poker, but what's the point of making that plan almost if I don't even know if poker is going to be a viable career in 5 or 10 years, So I think as the industry starts to take shape and we see regulation happen and we see what it starts to look like, it'll be easier to sort of think more about, the future of poker and my future within poker. And for now, I'm just sort of taking it, a few months at a time.
Okay, thanks a lot and good luck tomorrow.
Sure, thank you very much.
Thanks for the talk, Vanessa. Yep.